raw, uncut, and unapologetic. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness with your hosts John McCaskill and Will Schneider. Here we focus on helping men and those with men in their lives solve some of life's complex challenges through understanding the practices of mindfulness and how they can help. Each episode is in an environment free of judgment and criticism, with a focus on authenticity and inner peace. Let's dig in.
Here's food for thought. When boys and men are unhappy with their bodies, their quality of life is affected just as much as girls and women who experience body image issues. The idea that boys and men are not concerned by their appearance isn't only untrue, but being so is becoming more common. According to the Australian Psychological Society, research has shown that the number of men experiencing body image dissatisfaction has tripled from 15% to 45% in the last 25 years. Body dissatisfaction or negative body image can often result in overwhelming feelings of disappointment, shame, and guilt. It can also lead to unhealthy behaviors such as fad dieting, disordered eating, exercise addiction, depression, steroid abuse, and even suicide. This is from the website for Eating Disorders Victoria. Hello, and welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness, the show and the podcast. We are so very thankful for you joining us for today's show. And before we get any further, for those who are joining us live, I want to give a shout out to my fellow veterans for Veterans Day. I'm so thankful for each and every one of you and for your families, for your service and sacrifices. I hope that you have a wonderful Veterans Day and weekend. Now, here on the show, Men Talking Mindfulness, each week my co-host over there, Will Schneider in New York City, and I, John McCaskill, over here in Colorado Springs, we work to break down and demystify an aspect of mindfulness and make it meaningful to you. Today, we're going to get into a sensitive topic. We're going to be talking about body image and the way we view ourselves and how that is often distorted, and how that distorted view of ourselves can lead to pain, depression, and anxiety, and it can hold us back from being so much more, from doing so much more. Though we will talk broadly about body image, we're also going to get into specifically talking about men and how men deal with this. As this is typically seen as something that affects females more than males, and that is in fact true, but it is still a problem for boys and men. And we want to make sure that just because it's more prominent in females, it doesn't make it not a problem for men and boys. And we want to make sure that it is in fact addressed. All right, that was a mouthful. Before we get any further in this, I know Will has some announcements. Will, brother, good to see you, and over to you.
Thanks, John. Great to be here. And thank you for your service. It is Veterans Day coming up. Veterans Day is today?
Today,
I'm sorry,
yes,
today. And yesterday,
November 11th.
Yesterday was the Marines' 247th birthday.
That's right. The
Marines.
Happy birthday to the Marines out there.
Yeah. Dr. T is a Marine. My nephew, lots of Marines out there. So hey, thank you all for serving our country, and thank you for being on the show today. And just a few announcements: get on our YouTube, follow us on YouTube, and subscribe. And make sure you hit the bell to notify when we have new content coming out. And you can also, there's an easy link now on YouTube, just at Men Talking Mindfulness. Easy way to find us, at Men Talking Mindfulness. Two other things, John. Both are really exciting. Save the date. Our next in-person mindfulness adventure retreat will take place on May 18th to the 21st in 2023. It's going to be here on the East Coast in upstate New York. And I literally just signed the paperwork today. The check is in the mail. So this is happening. I actually went to visit the location this past weekend, and man, it's really the perfect place to let go of your responsibilities, detach from all the stress-inducing technology, and immerse yourself in peace and serenity as we practice together. So again, save the date. That's May 18th to the 21st in 2023. Space is going to be limited, and we'll have all that information up and a place to book within the next few weeks, probably that first week in December. And also, I'm offering a free meditation and breath work class, just 30 minutes on Insight Timer every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Just 30 minutes, no experience necessary. And you can drop in. It's all on Insight Timer. It's on my Instagram at Will Not Fear as a way to kind of get there. Or if you already have an Insight Timer account, you can just find me and then access that. So it's a great way just to kind of hit reset in the middle of your week, drop into a meditation, maybe learn a little bit more about meditation, definitely learn a little bit more about breath. But what we'll do, John, to start the show is we'll do our 5 breaths just to kind of chill out, relax the show. I'm a little nervous about today and excited.
Me too.
Because we're going to share some of our own shit today, our own stuff, our own body image stuff as a means to, I don't know, create more awareness and help people become more aware of theirs, for sure.
Right.
So, all right, well, let's take those breaths, everybody. So we're just going to do 5 breaths. If you want to close the eyes, ground those feet might be helpful, or maybe put both hands on the steering wheel and just really begin to find that contact if you're driving and listening. Let's exhale out the breath through the mouth like you're blowing out a candle. Just do a big, giant breath in. And exhale out 5, 4. Few more. Big inhale for 5. Out easy 5. Just a few more in. Really try to fill a big belly breath at the bottom where your belly is, middle of the chest, top of the chest. Exhale, let it go softly. Good. And again, in. Exhale. Last one, everybody. Inhale. Exhale out. Just take a moment and just notice if that's changed anything, whether you're super amped up or anxious in some way, and just notice, and then make some movements and open your eyes, come back, maybe a little smile on your face, which is a good way to kind of up your dopamine levels, make you feel a little better about yourself. But all right, John, body image, how do you see yourself? Let's dive in. Where would you like to start?
Well, I think you're always the definition guy, but this time I'm gonna do the definition. I want to jump on.
Love it. Absolutely.
So let's start with that. And I think the definition sets the foundation that we can build everything else off of. So from the National Eating Disorder Association's website, body image is defined as how you see yourself when you look in the mirror, or when you picture yourself in your mind. So it's not just what you see in the mirror; it's also what you picture in your mind. It encompasses what you believe about your own appearance, including your memories, assumptions, and generalizations. It also encompasses how you feel about your body, including not only your weight, because I know that's one that people automatically jump to, right? But it also includes your shape and your height. It also comes from how you sense and control your body as you move, how you physically experience or feel in your body. And then many of us internalize messages starting at a young age, which we're going to get into here. And I may actually tear up in this show, because when we talk about how early this starts, as a parent, it absolutely breaks my heart how early this starts. But having that healthy body image, how important it is for mental well-being, and then preventing eating disorders. So that's the definition and some encompassing parts from the National Eating Disorders Association website. So that's the foundation of our discussion today. And again, as I covered in the beginning, we're going to cover this broadly, but we're also going to delve into specifically for men or masculine types, what this is, how it affects us, and how we can overcome it. So let's talk about when it starts, Will, since I just mentioned that, and then our own personal struggles with this. So in doing our research, says that negative body image can begin at a surprisingly early age. According to 2020 research, 40 to 50%, 40 to 50% of first and second graders already don't like some aspect of their body. And again, like I said before, that hurts my heart as a parent, because I have a kindergartner, a 5-year-old, 5.5. She would definitely correct me in saying that, because she's not 5, she's 5.5.
5.5.
we went to a pumpkin patch the other day, and you pay by the age, right? And I paid for a 5-year-old. I said in front of her, I was like, "Oh yeah, she's 5," and she was like, "No, Daddy, I'm 5.5." But that's neither here nor there. So anyhow, it starts very early. It starts very early, and because these negative self-images, potentially negative, can start so early, it is a critical time to be very aware of what you do as an adult, as a parent, and see how easily these young ones are influenced by their friends, their family, and media. But it's also that perfect time to really start providing that positive feedback, right? Telling them how wonderful they are, not just in how they look, but in their hearts, their spirits, and everything else, and allow them to build that self-confidence that is built on more than just image. So let's that all said, let's talk about let's get real raw, real fast here, man. I don't know. You want to go fast or first?
Well, what's the question? I'll gladly go first.
How are we? What have some of our personal struggles with this been, or what are they currently?
This brings up a lot for me. Like, so I have a story when I was 25, 26. I was always like a really grown up. Like I was just a skinny kid. Like, and people make fun of me I just remember, people call me a beanstalk, and I was just all bones and ass and elbows or something like that. and I just was like, I always literally would just picture myself. I mean, like the reality was something different, and my mind would just see this really skinny kid. And, I really started hitting the weights, and, I was lifting weights and doing, like all through college, because I played basketball, and I always thought I was really, really, really skinny in college. And, maybe I wasn't, but it wasn't until I was like 25 or 26 that, I really started getting to the gym more often. And I was like, where I kind of, that's where my sport went, or just like, that was just kind of what I did. I just go to the gym after work, like, 4 or 5 times a week. And I was even benching like 225 pounds, like 10 times for like a couple sets. Like, that's a lot of weight. I mean, for especially 10 reps. I mean, but still I thought I was always really skinny and really scrawny. And then I remember, I don't know if one of my friend's girlfriends was visiting or something like that. And she said something like, wow, you're really jacked. And I was like, what? I thought she was like making fun of me. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm just skinny. Yeah. Thanks for making fun of me. It's like, fuck off, like, cause I was getting it kind of my whole life. And she's like, no, like, you really got some serious muscles. I'm like, really? And then I had a few other people kind of share that with me. And then I just like literally in that moment, like I just saw myself differently. It was just like the reality just shifted like so quickly. And then, then it became like not negative. Then it was like, like a year later, I'd be still at the gym. And I remember asking my roommate at the time, I was like, you know what? When I'm at the gym, Mike, I was like, I don't want you to call me Bill. That was my name back then, Bill.
Yeah.
Like, I want you to call me FJ. He's like, FJ? I'm like, yeah.
I know where this
stands
is going.
for fucking jacked, right?
Yeah.
So we all get a big laugh out of it. It was a big joke amongst our, our friends. But like, that's how it went the opposite direction. Not like I was like, but it was just really fascinating to like kind of flip that script.
Yeah. It flipped the script. Like hearing from someone else that you were fucking jacked, that changed your image in your mind of what you looked like. But what did it do to like further propagate the need to look like that, right? Now you are looking that way.
Yep.
And someone comes up to you, like they feed that fire, they feed that ego, like, hey, you know what? I heard that I am looking good.
Mm.
So now I need to maintain this,
Yep.
which is great to hear that about yourself and change that body image. But what does that do? So that's another topic. And I'll get into my personal struggles here shortly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's another side of things, is how we say something to someone if they are dieting, if they are working out. Because if we say, oh, wow, you look great, you look like you've lost a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
what does that say, right?
Yeah. So you're fat ass
So
before.
you are fat ass before, right? So that, I mean, that's terrible, right? So
Yeah,
and for someone who is working out, if we tell them, hey, you look so much more jacked, you look so much better,
stronger.
what does that do? And I'm
Yeah.
not looking for you to answer that. I'm just saying,
Well, no, I will.
for a topic for consideration for our audience to think about. And if you have an answer for that,
No,
I'd
like
love to hear it.
I mean, I definitely, I gotta say, like as soon as like you're like, hey, let's do an episode on body image. I'm like, oh my god, because it's like, so that moment, like, and I started seeing myself differently in a mirror, and I gotta say, I'm lucky with my metabolism, my genetics, but I've kind of built a life around health and staying healthy and like maintaining a certain physique, to be honest, in some ways, like an external physique. But I know but in order to do that, like I need to put the work in, so like it actually has a natural health, and I feel better about myself when I'm, I've never really had a belly, or never really got fat. Like I think the most I ever weighed was like 212 pounds or something like that. And when I got out of my senior year in college and drank the last month, before I left or something like that, I really put on some weight. But it's like, I think it's a good thing for me, to just kind of be able to go to the mirror and be like, oh, okay, looking good. But it does, like, I've definitely have I wouldn't say maybe a healthy obsession around it in some ways, but it's like, making sure, my core looks still, chiseled a little bit, even though, I'll be 50 next month, which blows my mind. So I think it's been a gift and a curse, because I definitely check myself out in the mirror way too much, John. This big, huge standing mirror in my apartment. But yeah, go ahead.
And I'm glad you said it's kind of been that blessing and a curse, because I want to acknowledge that working out, getting stronger, eating better, so that you can feel better in your skin, is not necessarily a bad thing, right? I don't want to say, hey, going to the gym or eating clean is a bad thing. Obviously, that's not what we believe. But we've covered staying healthy on the show. We've covered eating healthy on the show, and the benefits that come from that. And the benefits that come from that, that's what I want to focus on. The benefits that we mention are not looking good in the mirror, right? The benefits are not being able to jack a whole lot of steel in the gym. It's the fact that you feel better, the fact that you feel better in your skin, the fact that you literally are living a happier, healthier lifestyle. The flip side of that, where it becomes dangerous, is when it becomes an obsession. Right? An obsession. So that's what we want to talk about, is that obsession, and how to prevent it from becoming an obsession, first of all. And then if it has become an obsession, we want to talk about how to get out of that obsession, that addiction, essentially, is what it is. So yeah, man, I'm sorry I cut you off. So coming back to anything else?
No, not at all. I mean, I think at an early age I had obsession with my hair. I still do have a little bit too much of an obsession about my hair, and I remember combing my hair as a kid, and like I try to keep it long, and my parents, no, you got to cut your hair. Your hair's too long. But then I hit I remember getting my first handful of hair in the shower when I was like 26 or 27. I was like, oh no, I'm not losing my hair. And then later on, because I really didn't want to lose my hair, I mean, here's admission. I actually went on Propecia when I was 30, I don't know, 33, 34, something like that, for a few years. And it worked. It really, really worked. Because I have, just a little note about the genetics of male pattern baldness. It follows your mother's genes. her family gene. So my mom's dad was bald, and I have two brothers. Like one brother, my youngest brother is he's complete bald, just shaved his head now, and my older brother is like he's fighting the good fight, but losing madly and wearing hats, and I could see he's conscious about it. Yeah, go ahead.
Being bald, right? So we've talked about the way that you see yourself, right? And it's, again, we started the show off with talking about size, shape, weight, height, but it also, you're talking about another one. And why is being bald seen as a negative thing, right? It's again, society that has said that being bald is a negative thing. It's not. I know plenty of bald guys that are some of the best guys I know.
60% of the population, John.
Yeah,
like when you reach a 60, it's a majority, so it should be like, oh yeah, it's like everything is cool. Just, like, hey, I'm bald too.
Part of life. It's part of life,
exactly,
right?
Exactly.
Now, but that was your perception, in that you wanted to keep your hair because it was part of your identity, and you felt that losing your hair and being bald, or at least this is how you felt. I'm not saying this is how you feel. And don't let me put words in your mouth here, but it sounds as though that was your perception, is that being bald was not where you wanted to go, because being bald was seen as old or weak or some other
unattractive or something like that. That's kind of where I would go. Like, I don't like, that's like, it's just not a place that I wanted to go. And if I had an option to fix it, and I did. I mean, it was like, it really, really worked. And I think it's, I don't know.
But if it hadn't, you would have been fine.
I would have been fine. I mean, I think I would have been. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what it's like to go down that path, because I haven't had, that problem. I'm still losing some hair now. And I'm just like, when is this like all going to go away? But I don't know. It's been holding strong for a long time. So I don't know, slowly over time. But those are just a couple of the things with me. That really, my teeth, I had my teeth knocked out. I just like my one front tooth knocked out. So I really look at, watch the, my smile I'm conscious of. So, which is stupid, like, I mean, some people don't even notice that there's like a slight defect, or that's even a judgment. Right. So that's like, I mean, I got some shit, John, around this. For sure.
You are challenged by this still, right?
Yeah.
And I don't say that as, well, look at me, I'm not challenged, but you are. Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, even here, we're on the screen right now. I'm like, I mean, literally I'll be like, oh, how's my hair doing?
Oh,
it's
wow.
like, I know. It's like, it's a weird kind of obsession sometimes, and it's just like I honestly don't know how to let go of it in some ways. So maybe that's why
we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. Let's do that.
Boy.
Well, I mean, so again, as the show starts off, every episode is one free of judgment, and we're here to discuss that. And there's no judgment from me for the way that you feel, and hopefully the other side of that coin is true. And I know that it is. There's not going to be any judgment from you for what I'm going to delve into here, because I too am challenged by this. I would say that I still am challenged by some level of body image dysmorphia, or some level of dissatisfaction with my body. And coming back to when it starts, it did start young. I remember, watching some show. I think it was actually called Hero. It started with that song, like, I need a hero. There was yes, I finally sang on the show. There it is. And now you understand why I don't sing more often on the shows, because I've got a terrible singing voice. But oh man, so that's negative image too. Is my voice negative?
There you go.
So anyhow, obviously I'm struggled. But I watched the show, and there was this guy that was a hero on the show, and he was very fit, very good looking. And I was like, I don't know, 10 years old watching this show. And I remember after the show going back into my room and working out at 10 years old and knocking out sit-ups and push-ups until I just couldn't move anymore, because I wanted to be jacked like him at 10. I wanted to be what Hollywood portrayed as manly. And then, fast forward into my high school years, I'm a track and cross country runner, where it pays to be skinny, right? It pays to be light. So I wanted to be light. So I watched what I ate, and then we would be running on the track, and the football team would be there, and they'd be like, "Whoa, look at all these bird-chested kids. You're not even men."
Bird-chested.
Like bird chest, right? So then I was struggling with this because I was like, okay, well, I want to be skinny for track and cross country, but I also want to be attractive for the ladies, and I don't want to be called bird chest. So I would work out in the gym like you did, trying to get stronger, which didn't help my running. So it was a weird kind of struggle there. And then I fast forward even further into my time in the SEAL teams. And I remember being called the skinny fat guy because I was skinny, but I carried fat around. And I was like, I'm not going to be that skinny fat guy. And I'm definitely not going to be a bird chest anymore. So I'd go and hit the gym to the point of obsession. And
yeah, what age was this, John? Sorry, I know it's like 2022.
Probably mid-20s. And then again, it happened when I was like 35, 36, 37. Okay. Those are times that I was in the best shape of my life, or at least that's how I perceive myself. But here's where things get scary, right? Is that when I was stronger and I actually looked that way, I was looked at differently, and not only by women. I mean, that was nice to be looked at differently by women, but also by fellow men. Like, they treated me differently. They treated me with more reverence.
When you had like a bigger,
when my shoulders were bigger, when my chest was bigger, when my waist was smaller, when I was quote unquote ripped, right?
Yeah.
And fast forward to here I am now, 45.
Can you give us examples? Sorry, John, of before we go to the 45 of like how they would treat you, the words they would say, or you know what I mean, like the pecking order change. Right? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Similar to what you said is that, people would come up to me like, "Whoa, man, your shoulders are huge," or "Wow, man, your chest is looking great. You're chiseled," or that kind of shit, which, feeds your ego, right? You're like, "Oh yeah," and now you're going to puff your chest out and you're going to feel better. And you probably, because you feel better, or at least you're getting this false feeding to your ego, then you walk around differently. People, they just act differently around you. So there's a danger that we are propagating this in society, not just in Hollywood, not just on social media, which we're going to talk about here. But there is a propagation in the words that we use, coming back to the, saying, "Hey, oh, you look great. Have you lost weight?" That kind of thing. The words that we use, the way that we act around people, it's empowering, and it can feel good, but it's also dangerous. It's a double-edged sword.
There's a lot of judgment in those statements. Yeah. Think about it. It's like, hey, you look so good. Whereas like, I mean, and maybe you saw right. Or like, look how big your shoulders are. It's like, oh, well, you noticed that my shoulders weren't as big last time. So it's immediately like, so you start comparing they're comparing you, or like saying the statement. And I'd imagine like you're comparing yourself to, who you were a year ago or something like that, or a year earlier or something. But yeah. Right. So at 45, sorry. So I didn't mean to cut you off. But
no, all good, man. There's going to be a lot of back and forth here. So I appreciate it. So, I mean, okay. So here I am, 45 today, and I'm doing this show as I'm currently dieting. I am literally dieting right now. So I've got some eggs over here to eat for later today. I'm doing the bulletproof coffee in the morning. I'm trying to do a keto diet. And I'm primarily doing that so that I can feel better, right, physically, and like have the energy to play around with my kids, because I have found that when I am, a little bit lighter, I have more energy to get up and play with the kids and carry myself through the day, blah, blah, blah. But it's not an obsession, right? And I'm doing it for what I believe to be the right reasons. But I will say, yeah, sure, I would like to look better in the mirror. Not that I look bad, but there is, in my mind, sometimes I see something in the mirror. I'm like, oh, I want to adjust that. I want to adjust this. But that is how I perceive myself. If I were to look at myself or through somebody else's eyes, I wouldn't see that. We are our worst critics, not in just the things that we do, but also in the way that we see ourselves. We are our worst critics.
Yeah.
So we need to be very careful in what we're telling ourselves. We talked about negative self-talk before, and then the positive self-talk and how powerful that is. We need to be very careful when we look in the mirror highlight the positive attributes, because a lot of that time, those negative attributes that we see aren't real. They're not real. We're seeing a distorted image. And that's what body dysmorphia is. And we're going to come through the different types of this negative body self-image, that body dysmorphia, muscle dysmorphia, anorexia, bigorexia, which is
bigorexia or megorexia, they call it too.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that. But so we need to truly know how we really look, not just how we perceive ourselves. And then as I'm dieting right now, I have to be very careful in how I phrase that for my kids, right? They see that I'm not eating the candy. They see that I'm not eating the ice cream because going on an ice cream date with daddy has been a thing. And now I'm not doing that. Now I can still take them to ice cream, but then when they see that I'm not eating, then they're going to ask questions. I'm like, well, I don't want to be fat. Well, no, of course not. That's not how I want to phrase it. I want to be healthier. But then if I say that even, what am I telling my kids? Well, the ice cream that you're eating is not healthy.
So it's a slippery slope.
It's a very slippery slope. So
right, even John, just even saying that you're on a diet, might even. I mean, it sounds like to me like there's something wrong with you. You know what I mean? Like, or like you feel like there's something wrong with yourself, is what I mean.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's even just and just think about how that word has just been, has been totally fucked society in some ways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The whole diet, I'm on a diet, or diet pills, or, it's like, versus, I mean, what would be something, I mean, so in this, so what would be something that you could have it more of a positive and affirming lifestyle change, you know what I mean? Or like a way that you could speak to yourself instead of on a diet, which means like, oh, I have all these things wrong with me, so I need to change it in the form of framing in a diet versus like, no, I want to be healthier or something. Right. You know what I mean?
So what I'm trying to tell my kids is that the ice cream causes, and I nerd out with them, and I try to talk to them as I don't try to dumb language down too much for them, because they're actually a lot smarter. Kids are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. So I tell them, I'm like, hey, well, the ice cream causes my energy to go really high, and then I get really low, and I might be able to play. I might be able to play for 10 minutes, but then I need to rest. But if I don't eat the ice cream, I can play for a few hours. And I actually have experienced that. I've experienced super high energy for just a very short period of time with the kids. And then they're like, well, you only play with us for 10 minutes. Well, it's because I'm eating crap. So now they start to see that I'm doing it for the right reasons. And it's not just to look good in the mirror, that kind of thing. So. And
it's also helping them understand sugar. In some ways, it's like, because then maybe they'll take a pause and be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have that ice cream or that lollipop because this happens to daddy, so it might happen to me.
Right.
So I mean, that's a great way.
And it does happen with the kids. They're that much more sensitive to those spikes, and when they come out of that spike, it is hell on wheels, man. When those kids come out of that, so it's a lesson that they need to learn early. And I will admit that I do give my kids treats for things, and that's I know that's been poo-pooed on as far as a parenting tool, but sometimes when you're desperate, you pull out the big guns.
Exactly.
Sometimes sugar is easy.
It's
an easy one. I mean, that's why Molly Carmel in our whole thing about breaking up with sugar, she talked about how her mom had kind of just, whenever she wanted her to do something, she's like, oh, here, have some candy, have a treat, and that, again, talking about slippery slopes, that's a slippery slope, because it may help in the moment, right? You get your kid to do what you want your kid to do, but 2 hours later, they're coming off of a sugar high. The sugar high is also hell to deal with. Like they just running around the house like crazy, bouncing, and then them crashing off of that is also hell. So,
and plus you're creating a reward system too.
Yes.
If you're doing that, it's like, so therefore it's just like, Pavlov is like, oh, well, or Maggie, can I have a candy if I'm really good, or if I make my bed,
which has been proven, that extrinsic motivation only works for so long and only in certain environments. In other ways, and at other times, it's actually detrimental. But that's a whole nother show. We're going down a rabbit hole.
No, that's okay.
So let's talk about what drives this self-image. the negative side of things.
Mm,
Um,
mm, mm,
so I know that if I got on, I've cut myself off of Instagram for my own personal reasons. But I also remember when I was on Instagram, a lot of the stuff that's on there is people who are working out to obsession. They have like 3% body fat. They're very lean, or they're very muscular, or for the females, they're in their bathing suits and they're perfect, quote unquote perfect. So I think Instagram in particular, out of the social medias, is a dangerous one, especially if you look at it and you accept that as reality. A lot of the time,
mm,
the
mm.
stuff that we see on social media is crap. It's doctored, they're photoshopped.
Yeah.
And so I think social media is a big one.
Hmm.
As I talked about before, the TV shows that used to drive me to work out to obsession as a 10-year-old. So movies, Hollywood is one that's showing
Hmm.
what manly should be, or
Hmm.
what the perfect woman should look like. I'll tell you, pornography. Pornography is one that will drive people to think that their body should be a certain way.
Well,
Um,
so for men, John, like one of the things that as I'm doing the research is genitalia.
yeah,
It's like, is am my
absolutely.
balls big enough or my penis big enough? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's like, does it look good or whatever?
right.
I was like, oh shit, like okay, that's a real thing too.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, let's not exclude. I mean, we're talking about body image. Let's not exclude
Yeah.
those parts, right? That there is that, and that's a huge um, part of what can drive our negative self image is stuff that we see on social media, stuff that we see in Hollywood, stuff that we see on magazines. You go to the checkout line in the grocery store, and like 5 of the 10 magazines are ways to lose weight, ways to
Yeah.
lose weight in 5 days, ways to lose
Right.
weight in
Diet. Yeah.
diet,
Hmm. Hmm.
ways to pack on 10 extra pounds of
Right.
muscle. The other
Yeah.
side of things, right?
I mean,
It's
how about the pills,
pervasive.
John? That how about the pills to male enhancement? Like, make
Oh
your
yeah,
penis bigger if you take these drills.
yeah, right.
And then, I
It's
mean, it's
everywhere.
like, and I feel like all the things that you just mentioned, John. And then what what marketing does and commercials, and they just prey on that
Oh,
whole
totally.
idea. I'm not
100%.
enough. They just pull. They try to
It's a
like, you know,
moneymaker for
yeah, it's a
them.
huge moneymaker. Oh, it's still a huge moneymaker. It's going to continually be a big moneymaker as we move forward in the world, and hopefully it'll begin to shift, because what's happening now and what's been happening for a long time is like it's this extrinsic validation,
Mm, yeah,
validation from the outside, and therefore if I do these things, act like this, and then begin to maybe get some feedback, be like, oh, hey, your shoulders have gotten bigger, or like your chest has gotten bigger. It's like, then you get that reward, but then you're trapped. You're
yeah,
trapped in
yep.
like,
It's a
how do
cycle,
I,
man.
please tell me, world, how I look, versus like coming from the inside and being comfortable with yourself and just being like, well, this is who I am. One thing I've heard, there's like the kind of maybe I love you self talk. It's like
Mm,
looking in the mirror, and this is a really has a I've heard, this is an anecdotal, not like but just really accepting yourself, saying I love yourself. Dr. Rob Kelly talks about this. This is
oh
what he
yeah,
does. Just saying I love you in the mirror, and I love you, and really, maybe it's I love my eyes, or I love my face, or like maybe those parts that you don't necessarily that have been criticized, and you have been critical of yourself, and then just literally flipping the script, coming from the inside out, and accepting yourself for who you are. And when you do that, John, other people are going to accept you for who you
right,
are. I think there's a certain energetic projection of insecurity that, I mean, people just can maybe they're not even consciously picking up on it, or but they're attaching to it in some ways, and then they're just reflecting back to you in some ways the insecurities that you already have on the inside
right,
in a lot of
right,
ways, versus like taking time and really going in, and what we'll talk about some other things that might work for you, but like really literally changing the mind. And the mind is plastic, which we talk about so much on the show, that we can really begin to change our relationship to ourselves, maybe just through some positive affirmation, positive self-talk, and then
right.
also maybe
That's huge.
surrounding yourself with people that are supporting you and your goals, and aren't so aesthetically judgmental of you and you know,
Yeah,
and what you
that's a
should
good.
look like.
I like that.
Yeah.
Aesthetically judgmental. That's a good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So real quick, I want to come back to a couple
Yeah. Yeah.
things that my mind jumped to while you were talking. One, for boys and young men, another one that really highlights to them that they should be a certain way is sports, right? And we've talked about
Oh,
how
agility. Yeah.
sports,
Ability. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
agility and your ability. And we talked about,
Yeah.
right, when I was young, I was a cross country runner. I needed to be a certain way. When you were a
Mhm.
basketball player, you need to be a certain way. But in watching NFL and basketball, NBA, and you see these role models for these boys, and they are all in incredibly good shape, right? And
And
that's how we
incredibly
see,
gifted athletes too, in a lot of ways, and
right,
we're
right,
you know,
and we're comparing
aspiring
ourselves to them.
to yeah, exactly.
But
Mhm.
but then but there's a reason they look that way, right? That's their job. That's their mission in life, is to work out so that they can be super athletes on the football field, on the basketball court, wherever. That's they are sinking, I don't know how many hours a day into training. Whereas the rest of us who are living, as students in school, or as grown adults working out in the career fields, as parents, we don't have that kind of time. We shouldn't be as obsessed about looking that way as these sports stars are, and they're also revered as heroes, right? They're a super basketball player, and we revere them as heroes. And I've done that. I still do that. I think very highly of really good athletes.
Mhm.
But is it right? Right? Um, and then, this is not really tied to that same thing, but I guess it is in a way, for the women walking through the mall. I remember walking through the mall, and I was a dirty little boy, and I passed by Victoria's Secret, and I was like,
Oh,
"Oh,
yeah.
wow, look at those beautiful women." But Victoria's Secret models back in the late '90s, they were or early '90s, they were super skinny, right?
Mm.
And now what I love to see is that walking through the mall, the models are way more realistic, and they're
Mm.
beautiful. They're beautiful women. They've got beautiful bodies. They're way more realistic. I don't know if you've
Mm.
noticed that. If you've been to a mall recently, that was one thing that I will applaud some companies for doing, is that they're getting more realistic in their portrayal of what beauty is. And it's not all super skinny,
Right.
super muscular. If you're looking at some men, it's real, and there's
It's
beauty
not the
that
1%. Like,
it's
whether it's
not the
an
1%,
athlete, it's not whether it's
right?
not the athlete, that it just, like, has incredible gifts and ability and usually has a body that kind of, fulfills that role in a lot of ways.
Right.
It need to have that strong body, that rah, in order to,
Yeah.
whatever sport it is. And then the other side, with women, is like that 1% of the, 6'1", absolutely chiseled jawlines, beautiful, like, perfect proportions and stuff, or like perfect in the sense of like what, the marketing and the media and the fashion and beauty industry wants us to aspire to, because again, they just pull those strings on our insecurities all the time, and
Right.
it's just like, so they hold up all these beautiful women, so it's like, oh, I need to be like that, and therefore, in order to do that, I need to be doing these things, and
Yeah.
it just really turns
And
into a very
the
toxic relationship to
the
yourself
other
and the
side of that,
world. Hmm.
the other side is that is, so, like, as a man passing by Victoria's Secret, and all we see is skinny, skinny, skinny,
Mm.
then what does
Yeah,
that tell us? Is that if we are not in a relationship with somebody who is perfect, then
or hot.
that or hot,
Yeah,
then we are failures. And I
right.
say
That's
that,
true.
and Will and we both say that in quotes,
Air
right?
quotes. Yeah.
So that there's double edge there in their advertising, and so again, and then that's just one example.
I
And
do
again,
see.
this is another rabbit hole that I could
No, no,
go
no,
down.
it's okay. As I walk,
Yeah,
there's the Vans, the Van
yeah,
shoes.
yeah,
Like, they just have, like, a very non-typical '90s kind of woman, dress. I mean, she's overweight. I mean, she looks fun, but she's overweight. I like her clothes. She's wearing her shoes, but it's just like, it's definitely definitely a different way of marketing. Definitely
yeah.
a different way of messaging.
Is she
And
overweight though?
She is overweight. Oh yeah,
Is
she's
she,
bigger. She's
okay,
definitely bigger.
okay,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah,
So
yeah.
like physically overweight in that it could be detrimental to her health.
Yeah, I could. I mean, I would. I mean, not judging just medically. It's not a healthy body,
Yeah,
but it is in our society. We're approaching 50% obesity now. One in
right.
every two people is obese. Like that's just stats.
Yeah,
So it's just like, I mean, so I guess we need to market, or whoever's selling whatever needs to market in that way. And I'm not a big fan of like us growing in obesity, because what's going to, it's just not healthy for society. It doesn't create healthy people. It doesn't create the healthy mindset.
and again, you don't
Mhm.
have the energy in being able
Yeah.
to do what it is you want to do
Hmm.
there. So let's come back, kind of roll back a little bit to what's causing this in boys. So we talked about sports, we talked about social media, magazines,
Hmm.
pornography,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But I remember also coming back to my youth. I was South African. I am South African. I was born in South Africa and came to the States when I was 7 years old, and I experienced a lot of bullying for my accent, right? But then I also experienced, because I still have a big nose, quote unquote big nose,
I
and
never
kids.
thought that, John, by the way. Never fucking thought that.
Yeah,
Anyway,
well, and I,
there you
I've
go.
become comfortable with it in my more mature years. But I remember being picked on. Like some kids called me Sam, and it took me a while to get what they were talking about, and they were talking about Toucan Sam from the Fruit
Oh,
Loops,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
They're like, oh, because you have a big nose, you're Toucan Sam. And so I was bullied about my nose, so I had this negative self-image. I was bullied essentially before by the football team, calling me the bird-chested kid, or we as the cross-country team were a bunch of bird-chested kids, bird-chested boys. So there's a lot of bullying that leads to these negative self-images too, and it's not just among young men. We were talking about the movie Mean Girls before,
Oh
and
yeah,
as
Lindsay
funny
brought
as
that
that
up.
movie
Yeah.
is, there's a lot of truth in that, right?
Yes.
For young women, they are bullied, even though they may not perceive it as bullying. Somebody might tell them that they're too fat, or that they look a certain way in a
Mhm.
certain outfit. So there's that bullying on the playground. There's the bullying in later years in sports. There's bullying in the workplace. Even today, as grown adults, there's
Mm.
bullying. So
Oh my God, yeah.
we've got to really address the bullying. I think we should do an episode on
No,
bullying
we
at some
will. We
point.
definitely
Yeah.
will. Yeah, we need
So
to.
so there's that can also cause that negative self-image, and I wanted to make sure we address that, and we'll talk
Mhm.
a little bit more about
Well, I
that.
think it's interesting, John, that you bring up your nose, and I've never thought of anything, whatever. But it's like it stayed with you, like from those early days. Like
Yeah.
you probably still think you have a bit of a big nose from like something that was drilled. I mean, do you like still sometimes, or you
Well,
just
I
got
mean,
over it, or
so
what? You know what I mean?
uh,
Just a thought.
complete transparency. So
Yeah.
I did get in a lot of fights growing up, because I was picked on, and I was picked on, but I also started to develop, and I was able to defend myself. But in, let's see, my sophomore year, I got into a couple fights and had my nose broken twice.
Oh shit. Yeah.
And so it wasn't only big, but it was also crooked, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
so later in the Navy, I was having trouble sleeping, and they were like, "Oh, it's because you have a deviated septum. We need to get in there and fix that." And they're like, "So this is makes it that much worse." The doctors were like, "And you have this giant." I remember this doctor had
No.
zero bedside manner. He's like, "And you have this giant hump on your nose. Do you want us to go ahead and fix that for you?" And I did. I had them while they were in there fixing my deviated septum, which I don't know if you've ever seen that surgery. It's crazy. They just basically snip the bottom right here, and then they lift your entire nose up onto your forehead.
Oh,
It's pretty gnarly. But
oh, and they expose the bone, I guess, so they take away the
yeah,
flesh,
the cartilage, and
which is rectile. Remember, it's rectile.
yeah, that's right, that's right.
It's rectile tissue.
Yeah, from our episode with James Nestor on breath. So they went in there and they actually shaved it down. So that's where my
Wow.
insecurity about my nose carried forward into my adult years.
Wow. Okay.
So and I've had it fixed. It's straightened now, and it's less of a hump. And a lot of that hump came on my nose came from it being broken, but it
Yeah.
was larger before. But yeah, there I was. I mean, insecure about my nose size
Yeah.
because of the bullying. Because of the bullying.
Right.
So,
Right. Thanks
yeah.
for sharing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
And it's reinforced, it was reinforced, they kept calling it, and then you keep questioning,
Right.
this is, as a child, yes, but also, as an adult or somebody can, in our adult years, just bring up something that we can just be obsessing over in our mind. And therefore we go into the mirror and we're like picking ourselves apart. And,
Right.
and again, it's like, and it's just a really, a poor psychological loop obsession that
For
really,
sure.
that
Well,
continually, yeah.
let's talk about that psychological side, that the stigma, right? And
Mhm.
specifically for men. I want to highlight
Mhm.
something that we did in our research. According to the Newport Institute, men are less likely than women to talk about this kind of thing, to get help for these issues.
Yeah.
If they do, in fact, have an eating disorder, anorexia, bigorexia, megarexia, whatever it may be, they're less likely to talk about it and admit to their friends that they're struggling with it. And while the body positivity movement among women has grown substantially over the last decade, male body positivity isn't focused on nearly as much. Therefore, the stigma around male body image issues often prevents young men, I would just say men, period, but it says young men in this quote from the Newport Institute, from speaking honestly about their experiences and seeking treatment for related mental health challenges. Why is that? Why is that? I think a lot of it comes from the same things we've talked about on past episodes, even more specifically the masculinity kind of sub-series that we have, that masculinity, confined masculinity. When we were talking to Ed Frauenheim in his book with Ed Adams, where they talk about reinventing masculinity, and then they define confined masculinity as really sticking to three main areas of focus: the provider, the protector, and the conqueror. Well, the provider looks a certain way, the protector looks a certain way, and the conqueror looks a certain way. And they all have a lot of commonalities as far as how they look.
And they all behave the same way too, in the sense like there's no problem. I
Right.
don't ask for help.
Don't
I
ask
have
for
no
help.
emotions.
I don't
You know
want
what
to
I
be
mean?
weak.
And just imagine, like, if you come out and you would come out as a man and speak about your body dysmorphia or something like that. What would you immediately be thought of as a woman?
As,
Wouldn't you? In some
yeah,
ways,
as weak.
right?
I mean, hell,
As weak or as a woman.
here's
You know
the
what I
thing,
mean?
Will,
Yeah.
to take that even one step further.
Mhm.
When we talked about doing this episode, and I thought about admitting that I've got some of these challenges still to this day.
Me
And the
too.
fact that we're talking about it live right here, even in the back of my mind, as we're talking about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, people who watch this are going to perceive me as weak, which that's why it's there. It's that bravado, that false bravado. Hey, look, all right, I'm going to puff my chest out right now. And my shoulders are going to look bigger. It's ridiculous, but that's what we tell ourselves, is that we as men have to fit a certain mold. Even right here in doing this show on this topic, with all the work that we've done in these areas, it's still there.
Yeah. But I said, they got to say, the work that we've done and just talking about it, John, there's also a level of freedom that comes too.
Oh,
there's
100%.
a certain level. I'm like, oh my God, like, let's, I have images of like some of the guys and our retreats are for men and women, but they'll be like saying something, about me or like that we might've said in the show. And it's just like, but it's like, but there's something like, fuck it, man. Like, just let it go, let it out there. I mean, authenticity and vulnerability are the way, John, is how I think that we're showing, teaching, but also experiencing how to be more of a true person, and also to be really like the authentic man, the one that really, it's like, I mean, talk about really about just the whole, just fuck it. Like, just the whole, that attitude right there. And it's just like, and
the healthier way of living.
It is. It's honestly a much healthier. It's very freeing, very, 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 very freeing. So, but keep going, John. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let's talk about some of these associated disorders, right? Okay. So it can be associated with eating disorders, and or the dysmorphias that we talked about, which we all know, that those both the dysmorphias and the eating disorders, which are quite often linked, they're very real. I don't want to minimize those in any shape, form, or fashion, but they are also terribly unhealthy physically, as far as what's going on biologically in your body. I mean, if you're not eating, or if you're eating too much, trying to get big, is the other side of that dysmorphia. That's terribly unhealthy on your digestive system biologically. It's also terribly unhealthy mentally, emotionally. And this often is led, a lot of these disorders are anxiety disorders, anxiety of wanting to fit in, wanting to be liked, wanting to be revered. And so a lot of that comes from the fear of not fitting in, the fear of not being liked, the fear of not being revered. And that's the anxiety. So they truly are anxiety disorders. And we're going to talk about, or some of them are, we're going to talk about how to treat that later. But
it also leads to depression, John. It leads to isolation. You know what I mean? It could, just keep you locked in. It could keep you antisocial, all these different, just horrible, horrible affects of like the mental game of again, that extrinsic, like, I'm not like a super athlete, or I don't have like, the perfect body that I see in Men's Health all the time.
It's the feeling of less than.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not enough. I'm not enough. It just comes back to that basic, I'm not enough. I'm not enough, but I will be enough if I go on this diet, or if I do this, or develop this bicep, or this, this whatever kind of, or have this chin, or maybe, they've also, John, we've in this research talked about how much plastic surgery is done now on men. And it's really escalated. What I thought was interesting in the last 25 years, right? That body dysmorphia amongst men has really rapidly escalated. And just think about how does that, it's a correlation, but how does that parallel with the amount of media that's been continually shoved in our face, right? Because of right. Oh yeah. Because of, hey, the internet, like 25 years ago, what would that, so that's when the internet started, like in 94, 93, in that kind of area. And it was very, it was just a way of sharing information. But then,
I remember back then, that's when you were connected to the phone, and it took like 25 minutes to download like one image, one line at a time, right? But since then, you get an image instantly on your phone. You get like thousands of images thrown at you through Instagram or Facebook or YouTube. And now all these different social medias have a way of like feeding you more and more the algorithms. Hey, if you look at one picture of a guy working out in the gym, now Instagram is gonna be like, oh, since you like this, let's show you 1 billion pictures of men who are in good shape.
That fucking algorithm.
Yeah, the algorithms are terrible. They just feed it. They feed it. I mean, so
I'm locked in cat videos right now, John. Surfing videos are awesome. Yeah, cat videos, surfing videos are really good. I'm doing like hustle porn, kind of like, you know what I mean? Like people working out and shit. You know what I mean?
I get it.
So I'm in a good kind of groove right now, and I got to remember not to deviate.
That's right.
I keep positive messaging.
Yeah,
positive like a slot machine.
Hey, that's a tip. Right? So if you do have the algorithm accidentally locked in because you clicked one time on a guy or a gal that looked like they were in really good shape, or what you perceive as good shape, and now Instagram or whatever social media is that you're using is now feeding you tons and tons of that, you can click on it and say, see less like this, and actually change the algorithm. But I want to come back to those, what you were talking about, what it causes, what it can lead to. And I want to read a very disturbing, or several very disturbing stats here. Psychological counseling or therapeutic interventions have been shown to successfully help people overcome BDD, and that's body dysmorphia disorder. However, many people with body dysmorphic disorders do not receive counseling and instead undergo procedures, you talked about this just a second ago, to alter their appearance. One study found that more than 75% of people with BDD seek surgical and dermatological treatment. I just talked about me. I got my nose fixed. When I had the opportunity to do it, I did it. And I'm one of those percentage. And more than 65% of those people received the treatment they initially saw. Now, coming further, the risk of suicidal thoughts or behaviors associated with some form of body dysmorphia, whether that's seeing yourself as too fat, too skinny, not muscular enough, too short, too tall, whatever the case may be. The risk of suicidal thoughts is higher among those. One study found that nearly 80% of men with BDD had contemplated suicide, and nearly 25% had attempted it. 25% of those who are diagnosed with some form of body dysmorphia, body dysmorphic disorder, attempt suicide. Now that's alarming. So we need to change this. We need to change this.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And what are some of those things, John? Like what? I mean, we can go into changing in a second. I would like to, before we can, should we can go into prevent? One thing I would actually like, while we're kind of on this BDD, the body dysmorphia disorder, is the, I don't know if it's bigorexia or biogorexia, megorexia. They're the same word? I have it somewhere, I can't see where I got the wiki.
I forget how it's actually pronounced, but this was a word that both of you and I learned yesterday. But it's so you got body dysmorphic disorder is typically when people want to be skinnier, smaller, lose the fat. They see themselves as large. They see themselves as fat in the mirror. The other side of that is the muscle dysmorphic disorder. That's where they see themselves as too skinny, right? And that's the bigorexia or the megorexia.
Yeah, let me read this one, John. This is from Wikipedia, right? So it's under the umbrella, or it's not the umbrella. It's muscle dysmorphia, right? So muscle dysmorphia is a subtype of the obsessive mental disorder, body dysmorphic disorder, but is often also grouped with eating disorders. In muscle dysmorphia, which is sometimes called, by bigorexia, megorexia, or reverse anorexia, the delusion or exaggerated belief is that one's own body is too small, too skinny, insufficiently muscular, or insufficiently lean. Although in most cases, the individual's body is normal or even exceptionally large and muscular already. Muscle dysmorphia affects mostly men, particularly those involved in sports where body size or weight are competitive factors, becoming rationalizing the gains of muscle to become leaner. The quest to seemingly fix one's bodies consumes inordinate time, attention, and resources, as on exercise routines, dietary regimens, and nutritional supplementations, while the use of anabolic steroids is also common. Other body dysmorphic preoccupations that are not muscle dysmorphic are usually present as well. So that's that's just that's like the guys that are at the gym always kind of checking out their muscles and doing this, and then always comparing themselves to, Arnold Schwarzenegger or, with Lou Ferrigno, the Hulk, right? You know what I mean? Yeah. As just, which are, again, they're that 1%. Those are not the best word to use right now, but freaks. Those are the people that have just been gifted with this and maybe start working on it. Yeah, that was
literally what they did for a living, right? Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think he used to work when he came to this country. He worked for 8 hours a day in construction. Then he worked in the gym for 8 hours a day. And then he did acting lessons for not enough hours a day because his acting was terrible initially. But he obsessed about this. I would argue that a lot of those people who are highly, highly successful in the bodybuilding arena have these challenges too. And I don't want to speak negatively about them, but they and we, because here we are, me and Will are admitting on this show that we have challenges with it. But I would argue that a lot of these stats that we're reading and reporting, they're probably underreported.
Oh,
I would say
for men, I feel like so much of men's stuff is underreported
because
nobody's going to admit there's a problem. Yeah,
they're like, no, I'm perfectly happy in my skin.
Perfectly happy.
Then, in the back of their minds, they're like, I could definitely lose some fat. I could gain some muscle.
Or they're on antidepressants or drinking or, whatever, or consuming some sort of substance to make themselves feel better or something,
Yeah.
Crazy.
Before we get into the, what can prevent this, and then ultimately
Yeah.
what can heal it, because I know we're people who are tuning into this show, they're, oh, well, normally this show is an hour long, but today we're going to run a little bit longer because Will and I
Great.
really feel passionately about this. But I want to touch on what this prevents us from doing, right? If we look in the mirror and we see something that others don't, like we see ourselves negatively when others see us in a completely different light. We look in pictures and everyone's like, oh my gosh, you guys look so great. And all we see is, oh man, look at my belly. Or whatever the case may be. We see something and we look at it in a, not just a negative light, but a completely distorted light. What does that prevent us from doing? Does it prevent us from being bold enough to like start a new relationship, whether that's a relationship with a friend or with a romantic relationship? Hey, because you're like, oh, well, there's no way he or she is going to like me because I am not good enough, because I am not big enough, because I'm not small enough.
Enough. There's not enough of something.
I'm not
whatever
enough.
It is. I'm not. You
enough,
put
right?
you put all the bullshit after that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Perfect.
And what does it do? Yeah, it works against you. It's just like, oh, I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to do this.
I'm not gonna go up for that promotion because I'm not enough.
I'm not enough.
It's not just it's not just psychologically. You're thinking, well, I'm not good enough professionally, but you're like, well, I'm not enough. So my self-esteem is actually affected. So it really prevents us from living the best lives because we're falsely feeding ourselves this false image, or rather we are feeding ourselves this false image of ourselves. And it keeps us, it's confined, coming back to confined masculinity. It's confining us to being much less than we are fully capable of being. And again, I say that as I admit that I have my own challenges with this, but as I journal and I write, the positive stuff about myself, as I look in the mirror and I know that some of the negative things that I say about myself are in fact distortions. I know that, like cognitively, I know that, and I can reframe it and say it differently or counter it. That's really helping, and we'll get into that here shortly. But
it's also you're doing the work, John. Yeah, you're doing the work. You're doing work. You're actively, proactively, literally change. Knowing that we have this plastic mind, this plastic brain, we can change the way that we look at ourselves in the mirror. We can change the way we talk to ourselves. We can change the way we feel about ourselves. From the inside out. I mean, I think one thing, and I'm looking at some of the comments here, we didn't really talk about it. Maybe we touched on it or just mentioned it, but just meditation can help with all this stuff.
Yeah.
Meditation is the opportunity to get to know your mind. Meditation
and to know the bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. Very much so. Meditation is the opportunity to help relax that anxiety about your body dysmorphia or the way you're feeling about yourself. And then the more you sit, the more you relax, and the more you get to know your mind, you create the opportunity for to change, or at least you open up the opportunity to just look at other possibilities, to see yourself in a different light, and to seek positive ways of being with yourself and being in the world, and also have positive relationships with yourself, and incorporate and begin to bring positive relationships into your life instead of and also maybe your relationship to your social media. We just talked about, you can flip the script in your freaking reel. It's not the beat or whatever, your I forget
the algorithm.
The algorithm. You can change that shit to make it work for you.
Right.
And so it's just like we have the ability, but it takes work. It could be journaling. It could be meditation. I think both of those two have served us and a lot of other people tremendously. Yeah. But you have to make the time. It's not going to change just by, and I'm glad whoever's listening, I'm glad you're listening to this show. I think it's wonderful, but take the next step. Whatever it looks like for you, take the next step and realize that you're valuable, realize that you are enough, and begin to change from the inside out by taking on on just even a meditation practice, or just finding your breath and just calming the fuck down and getting away from your mind, getting away from the trappings and the negative, thinking and activity of the mind, and then taking those actions, the emotions that come along with it. You can change. That's okay, right. There's my PSA, John.
Boom.
But
Wow, man. Like, I love it. Like, how do we go from there, man? But no, let's
yeah,
do
no,
that. Let's,
no,
so
yeah,
we
yeah.
talked about, that's a bit that you talked about how to change, and we'll get a
Mhm.
little bit further into healing and treating. Once you have identified that you are having these challenges, that you may in fact be fighting this. We're going to talk about that in a second. But let's kind of back up further down the stream. And what I mean by that is, like, how do you prevent it from ever becoming a problem in
Mm.
yourself and in others? So I think a lot of it starts early on with, like I talked about my kids. I want to tell them how beautiful they are on the inside. I want to promote that positive self-talk. My wife, she sits down with our 5-year-old quite often, and she's like, what are you telling yourself? Because my 5-year-old, I love her to death. She can be very sensitive, and
Mm.
if we discipline her, she will say, "Oh, you guys don't love me anymore."
Yeah,
And we're like,
takes it
"Whoa, whoa, whoa!
personal. Mm. Mm.
That is a negative narrative. That's a negative story you're telling yourself." So we will literally sit down with her and be like, "Hey, what negative things are you telling yourself?" And she'll admit it, and we're like, "That's not true." So I think starting early on and being proactive as parents, as teachers, as
Mm.
adults,
Mm.
for our youth, we can help them to change and literally flip that script, and not be so focused on their outward looks, right? It's very easy to tell your little ones how beautiful they are
Mm.
physically, right? Um, Man, there's a giant buck that's running right by my window here. Sorry, I got distracted, but
John,
I
John,
know I got
fuck off, John.
distracted.
I'm in the goddamn city. There's cars. There's like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, thanks, John. Thanks. I'm just kidding.
So anyway, it's very easy to tell your kids how their physical attributes are. Oh, you're so cute. Oh,
Yeah. Look at
your
your
hair is
nose. Look at
so
you.
beautiful. And and look at your little cute button nose, that
Yeah,
kind of thing.
exactly.
Um, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that alone. But if that's all you do is focus on the physical attributes as a parent, as a teacher, as maybe a church leader or whatever, then you start like feeding that, that's what your identity and worth is based upon, is your physical attributes, and it's not. So you have to build other positive physical attributes, or identify those to
Mm.
our youth. So I think that's a big piece of it. And there's actually a great resource that's out there. It's called Confident Body, Confident Child. And
Oh,
we'll make sure that's in the show notes. Confident Body, Confident Child.
great.
Check that out. And that's for parents that want to encourage that positive body image and healthy eating patterns in young children. The other piece, coming back to teaching, and as adults, work to end bullying. We talked about how impactful bullying is on
Mm.
your negative self-image. Oh,
Mm.
you've got a big nose. Oh, you're a fatty. Oh, you're a bird chest. Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
We've got to put
Yeah.
a stop to that, and not just in our youth, but in the workplace as
No.
adults. We got to.
Yeah.
Hey, we're grown-ass
I
adults. We
mean,
got to stop bullying as adults.
just thinking at the gym, like thinking about pumping iron again. It's like, I mean, that whole the fucking false bravado at the gym, like with all
Yeah.
the guys, like, with the muscle shirts on and walking around, and it's just like, just
Hey, man, there's nothing
pulling a
wrong with
nose
muscle
up.
shirts.
Well, I'm not, but like
I'm
when
just kidding.
you're carrying yourself in a way
Yeah.
that's just like, look how fucking big I am, man.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and then
That's an
holding your nose up
insecurity.
to other people and shit. Oh, it's completely insecure.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's complete
Yeah.
insecurity. Instead of welcoming people, it's like, oh, hey man, let's oh, you're working on your shoulders, or you're working on this. Like, oh,
Yeah.
these exercises really work well for me. Pull people in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Create a
Like
community. Like
supporting, like,
support one another. I
right.
mean, we all
Right.
thrive when we support.
I remember a few times walking through the gym, and personally, I've done this. I'm guilty of doing it, and seeing somebody smaller than myself lifting way less weight, and in my mind,
Yeah.
I'm like, weakling.
Pussy.
That's a weakling right there. Yeah, watch out. Hey,
I know.
our EA
That's
is
like,
going to come on
but
and
I'm
shut you
just
down,
saying,
man.
you know what I mean?
But yeah, that's the kind of. But instead, and now I try to do this, is if I'm in the gym and I see someone and they're working out, they're bettering themselves wherever they are, they're bettering themselves. And I just celebrate that and be compassionate and be like, you know what, right on, good job, wherever they are. So that's a reframing that we need to do personally in the gym on whatever side you are. So whether that's you, the one like walking around and seeing someone lifting less than you, and rather than being like, oh, well, they're lifting less than me, celebrate them for being there. Or the flip side, if you are the one that's on the bench press and you're lifting less than everyone else, don't compare yourself to them. Compare yourself to you the week before, and celebrate the fact that you are there bettering yourself. You're not there to be the bodybuilder. You're not there to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. You're not there to be the fitness model. You're there to better yourself and get healthier for the right reasons. So celebrate that.
The only way anything's going to change is by showing up first. It's the only way you're going to get, have those muscles or whatever, like, or just anything's going to change. It's just to show up. That's all. That's the biggest, 90% of success, and that should be 90% of your celebration. Just getting there, getting there, having the will and the wisdom and the ability to get yourself there is huge. So celebrate just that, and then
100%.
Work hard, if you want, and do the work and disciplinedly. And I mean, the gym really helps me, John, especially when I do things that are really hard at the gym. I'm doing this treadmill, the Remy Adeleke. I did it this morning, last 2 days in a row, man. 15% incline. I'm at like 3.7, 3.6, 3.8 miles an hour, 21 minutes. Oh my, it crushes me, but I see my mind. It's like a meditation in itself. I get to,
but you're doing it for the right reasons, because it helps
all
you
the right
to
reasons.
Like push past your mental limits. You're not doing it because you're like, oh, well, I want to be lean and mean. And if it is that, you're not obsessed with it, right?
No.
It's okay to
it's
want
a byproduct. That's
better,
a byproduct.
It's okay to want to better yourself, but don't become obsessed with it. And that's again what this whole show is about, is because the difference between obsession and knowledge. Coming back to kind of preventing it, again, the onus is on us as adults, and helping to prevent it amongst our youth is really sitting down and having the heart-to-heart conversation. Is like, maybe they're teenagers and they're starting to get into social media. You're like, hey, you see this right here? This right here is not real. This right here is Photoshop, right? No. Or this right here is someone who works out obsessively, and they're on, this is what they do for a living. This is not real. This is not realistic, right? This is not, don't set your expectations here, because this is not where you're going to get, because it's not healthy. And then show them what healthy looks like by modeling that yourself. So I think that's a big piece of it. Is the onus is really on us as adults, is to change the language we use, and then change how, and help to change our kids' perception, and help them to be more critical of what it is they're seeing in social media, on movies, magazines, everywhere else, and really show them what true beauty is. It's not just external beauty. We've got beauty on the outside, but there's so much beauty on the inside that we're missing out if that's all we focus on.
I think anybody in a leadership role, whether it's a coach, whether it's a teacher, whether in an office, like, you can create an environment, you can create a positive, healthy environment, that like just affirms everyone's, that we're living. We all have the same needs, and the way that we attain more of those needs is by being kind, being loving, but that's going to take work of being kinder to yourself. And that's how we come back to the practice, like, meditate. Maybe what's going to help you lead to meditation is just like getting a little healthier in your body in some ways. Go for a walk, all of these things have just shown to, enhance our brain chemistry, so we have a more positive outlook on and a feeling, about ourselves, and therefore we're able to take like a more positive step forward. Right. Or maybe just don't do the negative stuff. Don't take a step in the direction that hasn't been serving you, or keeps you locked in your mind in some ways that isn't producing positive feelings and isn't producing positive results.
Right.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, so now those are ways to prevent it. Yeah. So that's kind of, further upstream, keeping people from getting to this point. But once they are to this point, let's talk about ways to treat this. And I love that you highlighted this in the notes. We are not medical professionals. We are just two guys talking about this stuff, and we are reporting on the research that we have done with our help with our helpful friend Google. So
Yeah.
if you want to truly know what it is that you are challenged with, we definitely want you to go and see your doctor, your clinician, and seek out professional diagnosis on this, and then professional treatment. That said, we do have some things that we have found through the interwebs that we want to make sure we report to you, and you can talk to your professional about this. So over to you, Will, if you want to go through a couple of these.
Yeah, for sure. So again, there's not a ton of, there is information out there for sure. And there hasn't been, for men, there hasn't been a lot of, there's not a lot of data out there for what does work or what doesn't work. But so first, is correct diagnosis of BDD, so body dysmorphia this disorder, right? Physicians can usually diagnose this in men by asking a few basic questions. These questions are designed to determine if a man is concerned about a perceived keyword flaw in his appearance, whether the flaw is small, imagined, or more significant, or whether or not the concern causes a significant amount of distress, or whether or not that concern interferes with an aspect of their lives. Okay, so again,
that interference. Hey, what is that interference? It could be not going out for that promotion. It may be not promote like seeking out a relationship, friendship, romantic relationship.
You? Yeah.
What is it limiting you from?
Yeah, it's very huge, right? So I mean, so if this episode is kind of like, oh wait, maybe I gotta go talk to a professional, get those questions asked and see where you are. Next is SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, have shown to be promising. So maybe that's a course of action. Cognitive behavioral therapy has also been effective in treating BDD. For this disorder, the therapy is designed to help patients develop positive opinions of their physical appearance, as well as quelling any negative behaviors caused by their skewed perception. Again, how many times we come back to, it also helps patients to face their fears. And, so there's definitely there is behavioral therapy out there that can help you with this as well. I just have some suggestions here. I already mentioned a couple, meditation, stop doing and reading and absorbing things that feed this obsession. Okay.
Right.
Shut out social media. Maybe psychedelics would help, John. Again, I'm not a medical professional, but like they've been shown to very, very, have a very, very positive effect on so many of the psychological disorders that, the pharmaceutical industry has been, battling for years. They've been shown in many, and we're going to see a lot of research coming out over the next, several years of how it's like, wow, how this stuff really, and because it's not just, it doesn't just help and change your brain chemistry, what they're finding, but in higher doses, in my experience with psychedelics, it gives you that opportunity to self-reflect in a positive way, in a kind way, that you can really see who you are at your core, which is loving, kind being, right? Yeah. But then, it shows me like what is getting in the way of me being that loving and kind being to myself. And maybe that's something that maybe an experience like that, because it's interesting about those psychedelic experiences, John, you can have this massive epiphany, this massive awakening, this massive love that you can feel for yourself. Rewiring, exactly right. Yeah. But the rewiring really starts after the psychedelic stuff. You can have, but if you don't do anything, and you just be like, oh, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, that was a lot of fun, and then you're gonna go likelihood, like a very, very high likelihood that you're gonna go back to the same way after just a few weeks of doing the same thing and thinking and feeling and being the same way. But just with like, oh, I remember that. So if you're gonna take that opportunity, take several weeks afterwards and get yourself into some sort of integration program, or something that's going to help you sort through the experience, right? But also help you to take active steps in beginning to be more of that self that you probably will be shown It's amazing. It goes right to the truth of who you are, in my experience. So,
That's right,
so
man.
those are just some ways that can definitely help if you are kind of stuck with any one of the things that we had talked about here, that can help you kind of pull yourself out. And maybe it's just going to take a couple times listening to this episode again and again. And another thing I'll also say, John, is if you're around a bunch of shitty people that that are very judgmental and always picking you apart and always picking apart other people, then I would trade up your friends too.
I'm glad you hit on that last part right there. Picking on other people, right? Like, sure, it's easy to not want to be around a group that's going to criticize you, right? And if you come in a group and they're like, "Oh, you're fat, you're not muscular enough," sure, we don't want to surround ourselves with those people. But if you're around a group that's also pointing at other people and they're like, "Oh, look at that fatty," or look at that weenie,
How scrawny they are.
yeah,
or something.
then now they are also feeding your perception of what perfect looks like or should look like.
Right.
So
You show me your friends.
Yeah.
You show me your friends, I'll show you your future.
That's right.
And what kind of future do you want? And if your friends aren't matching that future, fucking get rid of them.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, love to all, but if they're not helping you and putting positivity in the world, in their own lives, and into your life, then I would really question those relationships.
And if they are talking negatively about others, chances are they're talking negatively about you behind your back. So
it's a great point.
Cut them out, man. Cut them out.
Yeah, I love them and cut them out. But love them.
Yeah, love them as humans.
It's like they that's just that all that picking apart other people. And you touched on it, John, earlier. It's like that's just their insecurities talking.
Yeah,
that's just their insecurities manifesting and spinning, or like kind of they're speaking it to their own ugliness that they feel for themselves. Because if they're able to pick apart other people so easily, right? How are they picking them part of themselves? On a continual basis. So it's all like, it's just outward reflection of what's going on the inside anyway. So,
right.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
great,
man.
John.
We've definitely come a long way in this journey. It's been difficult, but also freeing, like you said. And I'm so thankful that we did this episode, and hopefully for those listening, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear what your challenges are, whether it's right here in the live comments or whether it's later on YouTube or on our Facebook or LinkedIn, wherever the case may be. Let us know the challenges that you have faced in this area. And maybe we can point you towards resources that can be helpful, point you towards people that can be helpful, point you towards meditation, journaling that can be helpful. If you don't want to put that in the comments, obviously we're not going to force that upon you guys. But if you want to, feel free to share that with us, because we want to be the resource to help positive change. That said, Will, unless there's anything else that you want to cover, I'm going to jump right into that closing practice.
No, I just, we have a retreat coming up, May 18th to the 21st. I'm so stoked for that. We're also going to be in Durango though too. So we have 2 retreats next year, East Coast and in West Coast. I guess Colorado's West Coast, or more west of where I am for sure. Wester of me. We'll be announcing all those very shortly and getting them up on our website, and you can really do a great, wonderful immersion with us, and be around a lot of positive people. We really create a wonderful, positive environment. Myself, John, Dr. Teresa Larson, and anybody that that works with us, we make sure we vet them to to just be good, positive people. And we all have stuff to work on too. So, I think we're good, John. I don't have anything else to say, but I really want to thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Normally, I say, or we say something to this effect after the final meditation, but I'm guessing that sometimes after the final meditation, people would hit stop and don't listen to this very last bit. Hey, for our audience, thank you for joining us here today, and we sincerely appreciate you tuning in. And if you got something out of this episode, please share it with your friends, your family, your colleagues, whoever you feel could benefit. Please give us a review, subscribe to the podcast, and get access to exclusive content that we're putting together. And the link will be in the show notes. And follow us on YouTube. As Will mentioned, you just go on YouTube and type in @Men Talking Mindfulness. That's us. Subscribe, hit that little bell, and that will help you to be notified of new content as it comes out. Boom, got that out of the way. Now let's get into this final meditation, man.
You got it, man. Let's do the 5 breaths. It's your
Yeah.
time. Your
That's
call, John. Yeah.
yeah. Well, let's, you know what, in light of, and this is kind of a spur of the moment thing, in light of the conversation we've had, I'm just going to guide something that's based around breath, but also
Excellent.
focus on our positive mantras, our positive stories that we're going to tell ourselves. So let's do an I am meditation. All right. So let's bring your attention to the here and now, the space and time that you are filling, that you are feeling. Noticing your breath, the physical side, the physical attributes of your breath. Your breath is with you always. We often forget, but it is with us always. Focus on that for a few seconds, paying attention to the rise and fall of your diaphragm with each breath in and each breath out. And now take a second to think about the last time you saw yourself or thought about yourself. And think about your thoughts, the metacognition, thinking about your thoughts, being aware of your thoughts and the emotions that are driven by those thoughts. And without any judgment, note those thoughts. Note what was true and what was not. Again, even without judgment for the thoughts that were not true, don't feel the need to judge it. Just be aware of the fact that it was not true. We often view ourselves through a lens that causes distortion. Being aware of that, being aware that we see ourselves through this distorting lens, we can change the way that we see ourselves, that we perceive ourselves, that we present ourselves in this world and in this universe. You are good enough. You are better than you think you are. Love yourself outside and in, as that is where this all starts. Self-love outside and in. Start to think about the way you think about yourself and give yourself more self-love. And with that, we will close with 2 deep cleansing breaths. Begin by breathing out as much air as you can, emptying your lungs, bringing your belly to your spine, holding empty, deep breath in, down into the belly, in through your nose, filling all the way up, holding at the top, and release. Empty, 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 holding empty at the bottom. Last one together, deep breath in through your nose, filling up, holding at the top, and now letting it go. And start to bring some movement back into your body. Rolling your shoulders, your beautiful shoulders, rolling your neck, your beautiful neck. and releasing. And thank you all so much. Thank you, Will. What an awesome conversation. Thank you for being so raw and just honest about this. This was fantastic. I got a lot out of it. I feel better for it. So thank you for sharing that with me. And thank you again to our audience who tuned in today. Will, I'll let you wrap it up, brother.
Thank you, John. And I think thank you, because I got to say it's a hell of a lot easier to have this conversation with a brother like you, who's willing to go there and put it out there and not be afraid, because we're like, we're united in this mission, and this is just a little manifestation of that, of our friendship, of what we're trying to do, how we're trying to help all people and men out there. And so thank you, John. I have nothing more to say. I think we all said it during the episode, and
right.
I just want to thank the audience out there. Thank you for listening. And if you have, maybe share this with your friends, share this with the people out there that might need this kind of information.
That's right. That's right.
Awesome, brother.
All right. Until next time, everyone.
Have a great Friday.
Have a great Friday. Happy
Peace.
Veterans Day to our veterans. Have a great weekend. We love you all.
Yeah.
Peace.
Joining us today. We hope you walk away with some new tools and insights to guide you on your life journey. New episodes are being published every week, so please join us again for some meaningful discussion. For more information, please check out mentalkingmindfulness.com.